a scooter, I got a scooter, and then I went for the top. So let's talk about it. Is it sexy? Yes, it is. But let's go into detail. This is the boring part of the video, by the way. This is where we go into detail and just point out some of the features that make this a little bit different. I'll start with where I started, which is the this one here. Lightweight, practical, almost universal. Scooter hire companies have them. There's heaps of copies. This is actually a copy. And yeah, it's a great start. It's a good way to get around. It's very practical. It folds up easily. It will do the job for average commuting type transport and a little bit of fun. I then felt the need simply because the need for speed. So I then found out about the Zero scooters. I've done a review of the 09, which I've gone into a fair amount of detail. I'll link in the description for a review of this scooter. I'm putting it here so you can see it as a size comparison to the 010X, which is an entirely different beast. I'll just put this aside and I'll go into a bit more detail. This scooter here, it's a great introduction to the e-scooter market world. It's practical, it folds up, it's very light in comparison. That's about 12 kilos. Very easy to handle. Maximum speed 27 kilometers per hour. E-brakes on the front, disc on the back, stops okay, doesn't go so fast that it's going to scare you. It's a kickstart, so you need to push off before the motor will kick in. So it's a great introduction, and for most people, yeah, that'll do the job. It's a great fun scooter. There are some questions about the strength of the locking joint, the folding mechanism. Apart from that, you make tyres. I think they're better than solid tyres. They give you a better ride. This has no suspension whatsoever, which keeps the weight down. It's fun. It's a good scooter. .09 was my next foray into the scooter world because I wanted something a little bit quicker and that would be better on the hills. For a practical commute, you need something that's going to get up a hill. This compared to the Xiaomi clone, which is a 250 watt motor. This is 500 watts, 25 amp controller. Gives it a lot more amps to get up a slope, but me being on the heavier side, it won't get up particularly steep hills. It's a great fun. It's a great fun scooter. This is one you actually start to have some fun on, and that's where it gets a little bit dangerous because you get the scooter bug. And this is what started me on that path, which we'll get to the next one. Folds up. This is 18 kilos still. It's, you know, it's fine. It's not something you will carry around, but it is something quite easy to fold up and put in the back of a car. You could take it on a bus, the handlebars fold down. Yeah. It's a great scooter actually. The 09 for the average commuter. This is a really good scooter. So, we've got front suspension, fairly basic, and rear suspension, air shocks, rear drums, front disc, e-brakes again, which does the regen, obviously helps to recharge the battery, air shocks on the back. I find suspension on this is a little too soft for a larger adult like myself. Now, the practical stuff about this one, the 010. Yeah. I don't know. This gets to the next level of scooter enjoyment. This is not a typical commuter scooter. This is a scooter you have simply for fun. Having said that, yes, today I took it down shopping and I wheeled it through a shopping centre and no one complained. So it's impressive looking, but people are usually just more impressed to look at it rather than actually being worried about it. This, we have dual motors, 800 or 1000, depends on where you read it, watts each end. They will peak at 1600 watts, so it gives you a combined total of 3200 watts, which, let's put it this way. The best way to describe this scooter is that everything is effortless. You come to a hill, you switch in both motors, which I'll go into in detail later. It will get up. It will get up without you worrying about it, whether it's going to get up. You want to go off-road, you want to hit the dirt, you want to go through a park, through long grass. Both motors on, it will manage pretty much anything you put at it. The suspension is a whole new level. You've basically got mountain bike, motorcycle style lever arm suspension front and rear, with preloaded adjustable springs, disc front and rear. Obviously you've got the e-braking for both motors. And here's a point I will make for any high-powered e-scooter. For example, the Dualtrons. This permanent fixture on the scooter, the back plate, which is cast alloy built into the whole platform. It's a suspension mounting point for the rear suspension. This is essential on a scooter that accelerates the way something like this does. If you get a scooter with this kind of power and it does not have a built-in back plate, that's plain dangerous. You do not want to put your weight on the bars when you are accelerating at the rate that this will accelerate. This is the kind of scooter that you catch up to cars. And you need to be braced to actually do that. Do not expect to stand with a foot there and a foot there and hit the throttle with both motors on and to stay upright. It's not going to happen. That is essential, and I can't stress that enough, and that's one of the things that I really appreciate about this scooter. That's what makes it safe. what else can I say about it? It's extremely well made. The locking mechanism for the folding stem, this one has dual levers to lock the clamp, which I think puts it above the Dualtron scooters that are out there for a lot more money, which gives you a more secure clamp. You've obviously got 2 screws in there, 2 clamps. Obviously, over time they'll stretch and it will loosen, so you need to tighten them up. That's pretty much the same for all folding scooters. There's a weakness in a folding mechanism. The suspension is fantastic. It's a huge leap above the 09. This, you stand on it, it sags a tiny little amount. You go over any bump and it will soak it up. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't care. It's rated for 150 kilos. I could probably actually lighten off the preload and get a little bit more sag and it would still be fine. This does not bottom out on a bump coming off a curb or anything. Yeah. So I'll now just do some detail shots. Alright, the first thing we'll go into is the controls. One thing I particularly like about this scooter, considering the cost, and the visual appearance that would make it something of a theft magnet, it has a keyed ignition. So you can lock this so no one else can start it up. Obviously you want to chain it to something if you can't take it where you're going, which to me the whole point of a scooter is being able to bring it where you go. And like I said, I've taken it into a supermarket and people have so far been fine with it. So if we turn on ignition, we get a voltmeter. So that's basically your fuel tank. This is a 56 volt scooter, but you're peaking at full charge about 58 volts. Obviously that gives you an idea of how much power you're going to have at any particular time. So when you're dropping below 50, you're not going to have the same kind of power that you have when you're on a full charge. And just like the 09, we have a controller. I am not going to touch the throttle because this will just take off. You've got your 3 gears, which are basically just your power modes. It defaults quite sensibly at gear 1. So for the average newbie jumping on, they're not going to kill themselves right off the mark, which is, yeah, it's a different scooter to the others, so we'll just leave it at that. On this side, we have 2 very important buttons. We have our Eco Turbo button and our single dual button. Eco Turbo, again, that controls whether the motors are getting 800 watts or 1600 watts, overvolted basically. Single and dual decides whether you're going to have just the rear motor or both motors going. Pretty much I leave this button alone. That will obviously improve your economy over time if you need to get a long distance. On charge, which on this one, the 24 amp hour battery is supposed to give you on eco mode about 90 kilometers. But I don't use it for that kind of range, so I tend to leave that on turbo. The single dual button makes an incredible difference. You come to a hill or an area where you need to accelerate, you go from single to dual, and yeah, that's when you need to hang on. It's addictive. Yeah, it's addictive. That button doesn't get switched off very often, frankly. That light, that's an aftermarket I put on because the front headlights, they're fine to light up a small section of road ahead of you, but with the speed that this can go, you need to see further down the road, and I think they're kind of, yeah, not really adequate for this kind of bike. So that is just to get a little bit of range, but that's an easy enough sort of fitment. You do actually have a USB port. Whoop, there it is. On the back of the controller, so you could charge or power your lights from there as well. That's will actually output your 5 volts. Yeah, so going into detail, a little bit more detail. The rear step. I'll just give you an idea of view of that casting, which also makes for the suspension mounting point. Yeah, that's not going to go anywhere. I think that's a crucial part of the design of this. I know the Dualtrons have aftermarket things that you can put on the back, and the intercom aux has something similar, but yeah, not quite as solid as that. That's brilliant, and in my mind, completely essential. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There is something incredibly addictive about having dual motors and being able to get wherever you want to go, be it on road, jumping off a sidewalk, having to go through some woodland or a park. It will just do it without any sense of effort whatsoever. I have yet to find a hill it could not get up, apart from a very steep grassy hill that is actually quite difficult to walk up. So yeah, that's where we're at for the technical side. There'll be more videos of it in action down the track.